Thank you, Jason, for joining us. We've heard a lot about how technologies is actually revolutionizing, obviously, different platforms and apps. But having a different technology and app in law is something very interesting. If you can explain how that would work and what one law is actually up to, it would be really great.
Yeah, so I think as we were, talking a little bit on and offline about how everything's moved digital, right? We're in the new digital realm, and law is no different. Law is basically needs to move along, and if anything, there might be some real advantages to the technological jump that law is going to need to make, going digital, that will benefit consumers in the sense of pricing. But I've always thought that I'm kind of on the forefront of that move to virtual, if not digital law. And what we're working on right now is the ability to, I call it my virtual lobby, but it's the intake, it's interacting, the initial consumer touch with a lawyer or with a law firm being handled through automation. And then once the relationship escalates, they can move on to a secure platform. As I believe, you've known me for years, and I believe that the legal realm is something that's very important, that deserves its own app. It deserves its own environment, because we have a different standard as far as what you could compel a lawyer to share. And since we are very limited as far as what is allowed to be shared by a lawyer, we could have the privilege that we would be able to use as a shield to protect attorney-client communication. But just furthering that, right now we are doing about 30 lines of chat with automation, including cellular or email validation before they hit a human. So people are following 30 instructions before they even interact with a human on our platform. And that allows us to make sure that people are directed to exactly who they need, whether that's location-based or practice area-based.
Okay. And what are you using? Is that AI or?
So it's we both know that AI is often oversold, but it is a machine learning, a rule-based system right now, but it's the beginnings of it, I would say. And, algorithms are easy to come by. There's a lot of open source algorithms. It's all about the training data. That's really, I think, what makes the difference. And this year alone, we've done 20,000 chats. I think we're coming up really close on 1 million messages. So those are 1 million single lines in a chat. But those are some big benchmarks for me. 20,000 chats last year. We did 3,200 in the month of December. We doubled our usership, almost tripled it in under a year. We're about 9 months in, and we're shooting for tripling. We went from 3,000 users to we're probably at 8,500 at the moment. Those are validated users. These are not just users of the web platform, but these are people that have gone through some level of validation, either a phone number, an email, all the way up through a license or passport.
Right. And now that we are actually moving into digitalization, as you said, we have also cryptocurrency right now. And I believe that one of the other applications of the app or another sector that you're actually focusing on is the custodianship.
Yeah.
Now that with the rise of cryptocurrency, the market cap and like the hype and everything, obviously people are looking into how to own a Bitcoin or how to own a cryptocurrency. They even don't know about the other things that they have to actually be careful about. So if they lose their passcode or their phrases, and also what they will do after, like it's kind of like a will, or if it's going to be inherited.
That's a good point.
If you can also explain that, that would be good.
No, absolutely. So I think one of the barriers now that we're into a new life cycle, hype cycle, whatever we want to say, there's just renewed interest, right? Every zero you add brings in more interest into the space. But one of the things that it's very inconvenient is just dealing with your keys, your phrases. How do you even move these things around? And the beauty of using a lawyer, think of a lawyer as a live trust company, as a live bank that you can trust that if you give that person something, they're under obligation to give you your property back. And so what can be done in the space of a digital custodian or a virtual custodian is that you take the private key and basically, break it in half. So the client would have a key and the lawyer would have a key. Now the lawyer, we would undergo the most stringent, air gapped, cold storage, blah, 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 military grade possession of our half of the key, which secures it. But if the individual were to lose their half of the key, they could come into one of the affiliated law offices, validate themselves through passport or license, which has already been done through KYC, and have a new private key issued that would work with the other half of the key in cold storage, right? That's one of the benefits, is you have a lot less risk of forgetting, losing, not moving it. It's a more trustworthy, and it's built around a profession that has made its money off of trust, right? I mean, we've got 6,000 years of people trusting lawyers, and why not use a digital medium to protect those assets? You mentioned crypto, but let's just think of how valuable certain documents are. The knowledge of who owns what, ownership, proof of ownership. Those are digital assets beyond cryptocurrency that can also be held in this fashion, in this type of, heightened custodianship. It's basically using a lawyer to take care of the stuff that you're afraid you might misplace or forget how to use.
Right. And is the platform that you're actually using, is that decentralized? And for example, how do I sign up? I just need to hire you?
No, so that right now we do it on a bespoke fashion. We have a whole process. We're creating I believe it's called a universal digital custodial trust, and the idea being that the only purpose of the trust is to manage digital assets. So it'd be engaging in that type of relationship with a lawyer. I'm sorry, we got a little. There, I'll have to walk you by. I chose to come do this interview at the beach because I love being at the beach, but comes with some noise when you do that. But the digital trust, so you could have any lawyer that could do that. But our platform specifically, going back to anybody who's heard my pitch, knows. So we built on the Stellar platform. We have a token that can be used for identity. It can be used for reward points, paid for transactions on our platform. But we have a wallet built into the app. And then that level of security, the air-gapped military-grade security we offer, is something we built a piece of hardware, and you've seen it. We call it the accommodator, to accommodate transactions, but it's a air-gapped cold storage. It's just the way that it should be done with digital assets. And then the second safeguard, of course, is the lawyer themselves, and potentially insuring these assets through the lawyer's policy would be the next level.
Is it already in use? Already?
Beta. We had a group in Japan that we got really close, signed a lot of documents, and the crypto story. They didn't want to pay for it. They chose to go their own route, and they ended up losing their assets. So that's kind of what happens, But as far as the documentation and the procedural and mechanical parts of it, it's all in place. It really is something we look forward to as we teach people about cryptocurrencies, about the tokenization of digital assets. As we show that and do that through the consumer base, we believe that we will only get more and more value to be stored on our platform.
Right. Anton?
I'm reading about DocuBot, and I have a question, Jason.
Sure. Yeah.
So what you're talking about now, it's like some kind of upgrade of DocuBot.
If you think of all of our technology as inside the family, DocuBot would be the communication tool, an automated communication tool to allow you to go back and forth. DocuBot itself is not the air-gap cold storage, but DocuBot's the messenger, right? That would be how you could instruct a person, give instructions to a person without having to do it live. That's what I believe in the future. Lawyers So I'll give a simple example in something like child custody, which is a very big issue for anybody who has children, right? If you're married, happily married, that's wonderful. If you're not happily married, or you are not married and you have a child, you have some considerations, but the considerations are the same throughout the world. Do you have an order? Yes or no, right? Have you taken this matter to court? Yes or no? If no, you're going to need to take it to court. So the question is, are you married or are you not married? Because if you're married, you will file a divorce action. If you're not married, you'll file a paternity action. Right there, that information can be automated. And just as I said it, it can be re-explained over and over again using the DocuBot. And that's one of the primary purposes, is to digitize my knowledge and give it out to people. And hopefully they find value in it. And when they have a for-profit case or a case that is valuable, they will come back to our platform and engage with us for the traditional services. That's what we're looking at but I believe so much of the law is procedural and readily you can automate it. There's so much lawyers know. We know so much in our heads that all you have to do is yes, no, ABC, Boolean, easy stuff.
Yeah, I fully understood, Jason, and I really love DocuBot because I read about DocuBot a bit before. And one of my friends, she's a lawyer and she's working in Sydney. And actually, probably in case you have a time, I will introduce her to you, because
Wonderful.
She wants to create the same, and she's looking for platform to create the same thing for Sydney lawyers.
Yeah, beautiful. We could have her going by the end of next week.
Awesome. So, and about custodies. So, I know quite well about custodies because our engineering team also working on custodial solutions, but we are not sales guys, we are engineers. And
Sure.
What I can tell you, custodies now will become more and more popular. But what I'm afraid for, banks will try to also be a custodies, because now, America, you announce the new coming laws that banks can issue stablecoins. So banks automatically will be custodies for stablecoins, and then
Right.
they will start to do a custodial service for any crypto assets. But actually, probably I more trust my lawyer, who is my neighbor, than to Wells Fargo Bank. So
that and the bespoke solution. You go to the bank, you are engaged, you're reporting. There may be transactions that don't need to be reported yet because they haven't been consummated, right? It's an event to happen in the future where maybe both sides have pledged something. You don't need the bank. The bank is more retail, and I believe that has an appropriate space. But I think that high value trust is something that a lawyer can offer much better than a bank.
Yeah, and in British law, trusts as a thing quite popular, right? And many people want to use a trust to protect their assets, and they don't go to bank. They are coming to their friendly lawyer and ask could you please make a trust for me?
Absolutely.
So in case
a trust or an LLC.
Yeah, in case you can make your product as a service, as a technology, it's could be scaled, and it will be cool. So I really love the idea, because now it will be more and more popular, because custodial, not many people, regular people, they can accept and be a responsibility to keep their private keys. Most of people, they probably want to give this
obligation or problem.
Yes, they give to the lawyer and some more trusted guy whom they know, and so on. Especially more older people, because older people who are not so familiar with technologies, they definitely don't want to keep private keys.
Absolutely, you 100%. I think you've just summed up. Maybe that if you don't want to keep your private keys, that will be our catch line, because that's really what it is we can make that easier, and they're far more accessible to the average person, because banking it's an economy of scale. They have many clients. The lawyer, you could have, a few valuable clients and they get excellent service, right? They have that level of trust that you mentioned. And so, no, I've been a big believer. We came up with the idea probably there. I think that when Azam and I met in Toronto was probably about peak. The real value was coming up with some form of air gapped cold storage. You can do cold storage and save it in a safe, but at some point you need to make it easy to get a hold of. And cold storage, the problem with just a flash drive or a ledger in a safe is how do you move in and out of it? And I understand the need of the stable coin, but if you're talking at actually transitioning of the asset itself, not just making a transaction, but saying, hey, I actually want to give this to someone else, I think that the digital custodianship is much better than cold storage. Being able to send this, very quickly, being able to recover the keys through the way I described it, through revalidating either passport or license is very important, and that needs to be done instantaneously.
And this technology could be scaled. I guess many other lawyers who are less familiar with technologies, they prefer to use technology as a service than to invent themselves the bicycle. Why they should do. But in case the process very smooth, you can onboard more lawyers who have their own customer bases. And it will be a really good use case for technology.
No, thank you. I think we're what's funny is sometimes, and who knows, but I have felt that I've been ahead of the market, and now it seems like the market is catching up. So it's a very good time to be having these conversations. Absolutely. And Azam,
especially with Stellar right now.
I think Stellar is going to come out. I mean, didn't Stellar get on top of Ripple for the first time? That's kind of interesting.
Exactly. I'm actually looking at it right now. It's quite doing well, and I think Ripple might be delisted. So obviously I think the next crypto would be Stellar.
Yeah, the utility. Right, all the utility of Ripple, and then but open source, public. I mean, that's important. I think that for mass transactions that they're describing. Is it ever going to be Ethereum or Bitcoin? No, but it's got a functional $1, $2, something like that, maybe.
Perfect.
We should say big thanks to Ukrainian government, because I just recently saw a news that raising of Stellar connected. With that Ukrainian central bank decided to use Stellar.
Wow!
Ukrainian central bank decided to use Stellar technology, and this news used to be just maybe published a few days ago, and then Stellar started to grow 2 or 3 times.
I think for the Bitcoin, we can give that a little bit of credit to the Iranian government and perhaps Russians for allowing that mining.
I think that having part of your corporate treasury in Bitcoin in 2020, 2021 now, gosh, I forgot, 2020 is behind us, but in 2021 is totally acceptable and a great hedge. Are we to the point that 100%, that's a lot of risk. You have to have a lot of money in order to weather that. But on a smaller level, you could put an amount of it, and as it goes up, it grows, matures. I mean, it's really fascinating. I think that this is an interesting time with so much runway ahead of Bitcoin, so much opportunity, that if you start thinking as part of your business strategy, you're going to really benefit.
Exactly. It's a digital asset, and it's really well performing.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, how many? I don't think you have to go to that many stores before you see a Bitcoin ATM, right? They're gaining in consumer acceptance.
Exactly. Even like in the malls right now, I can see the Bitcoin ATMs, and I think it's faster, it's cheaper in terms of the fees, and like the ATM itself. I think if you want to withdraw from your regular bank, they would charge you $3 to $5. In an ATM outside. But then, I mean, cryptocurrency exchanges or the ATMs would be like probably 2-3 cents, or even
Wow.
I don't know. It depends.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah, that's great.
So I mean, we can see the gap. Obviously,
Yeah.
there was a report that one of these big Canadian banks, BMO, one of their most revenue is from the ATM fees. I mean, this is just one of the
Wow.
sources of the revenue, like unbelievable. So I think, yeah, we're moving towards that trend, that the mass adaptation. And now I believe the pension funds are very much interested in Bitcoin, obviously. So it would be, I think, a trend to have, as you said, a digital currency of Bitcoin in their portfolio.
Well, yeah, even more a little bit than portfolio. I'm talking about even having it in the treasury is, to conduct business more and more in Bitcoin, because that you don't want to just take it and say, okay, I've got, $5 million liquid, and so I'm going to put $1 million into Bitcoin. That's the lazy way to do it. The better way to do it is to put that in there and start transacting using the Bitcoin,
like
incentivizing.
Would you accept Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies if your clients would offer?
100%. 2014, we were the first time we accepted cryptocurrency for legal services. So we've been at it a while. We haven't,
You've been the first then. The first.
Yeah, I like to consider myself the first, but we've been waiting for the digital transformation. I've always been a believer that at some point things would get cheap enough and easy enough that most people would have access to everything. Getting access to a lawyer, to legal help, is going to only get easier, less expensive, and that makes it better because you will stop bullying via lawyer, right? The lawyers, the person with the money won't be able to as easily bully the person that doesn't, because that you can get a response or you can get a pushback, through technology. And I think that that's really, where it is. But you have to be able to transact digitally. And one of the things is, I think the gap we're seeing right now that's being filled in is by like Venmo or the Cash App or Apple Pay. But really, at some point, you're going to want to be here, just submit it here. Why involve any other third party if the payment is going to be effectively transferred immediately, right? It's not as though there's no ability to get a charge back. Well, that's great with Venmo and Apple Pay, but I think eventually why not be your own transactor? Why rely on Venmo or Apple Pay when you can do the same thing yourself?
Exactly. I think right now, even with the cryptocurrencies and the wallets, they're your saving accounts. You're the owner, right? You're just managing it. You don't have to pay interest rates for it. And there's some other applications or some other services that some wallets were actually offer. They can loan or pay you interest rate against your crypto assets, right?
Fascinating.
And I think when the Bitcoin obviously reaches its cap and it's like mined completely, obviously you can just lend it and then just instead of selling it or
pledge it. Yep.
Exactly. So I think that's what the technology is for, to make life easier for human being. And I think using third party would not even make sense, because the third party is taking advantage of that freedom and the pleasure that technology is actually giving you. So we're heading that way, hopefully.
I believe so.
Faster and faster enough. So
great.
Thank you so much, Jason. Do you have? Oh, sorry. Anton.
I know one use case. If Jason, if you're familiar a bit with the DeFi, so I have one idea. I don't know how viable this idea. So BitGo. BitGo is one of the oldest custody. Same when you started to work with Bitcoin in 2014. Probably they started also 2014, 2015, and the main service custody for Bitcoins, but. Honestly, I don't. I'm not sure that a lot of people still trust. So you could not. Probably yes, you could verify how much BitGo have in custody, but some of people probably. Who is BitGo? Where are they? So many entities and so on. So, in case you want to keep your Bitcoin securely, yes, it's better to give your Bitcoins to your neighbor lawyer, but not to lawyer, but a technology which your lawyer has, and this technology also like trusted, auditable, blah blah. So you always can be sure that if you send your one Bitcoin to the lawyer, this Bitcoin still exists on this address, and you can verify on blockchain. And the second, as you said, you shouldn't just hold Bitcoins, you should transact. So now in DeFi, it's a era of crypto derivatives, and same as doing BitGo. You know WBTC. So what BitGo do? They wrap Bitcoins and they create Bitcoin on Ethereum, backed by real Bitcoin on Bitcoin blockchain. So you can do the same. When your customer giving you one Bitcoin, you giving to your customer a derivative, the token that represent what your customer gave you. So this token is kind of access to custodial assets. So I give you one Bitcoin and you give me one token which represent your debt to me to pay me back my asset, what I gave you. And these derivatives could be traded on decentralized exchanges, or these derivatives could be connected to my personality. It's up to you. So you can create multiple different derivatives. And for example, I have now Bitcoin, but I want to trade on Ethereum DEX, but I could not deposit my Bitcoin on Ethereum DEX because they're not connected anyhow. And I'm afraid to put my Bitcoin to like BitGo custody because probably I'm a bit skeptical. I'm paranoid. And I'm giving my Bitcoin to my lawyer. Lawyer give me Ethereum token backed by Bitcoin, tradable one-to-one. And I can use Bitcoin token anywhere. And my Bitcoin start to work. First, it's securely kept in your custody. Secondly,
that's great. I think that's a really fascinating use and much easier. Then again, it goes back to, you don't know BitGo, but you can know your lawyer. And then especially if you're able to, I love it. I mean, I love just the relationships with potential exchanges, the facility for the client, but yet always backed by the assurity that you can go look on the blockchain that your Bitcoin is still there.
Exactly. And I think that's the beauty of DeFi. DeFi is obviously opening a new world of possibilities that even, we think they might not exist, but they do exist. It's just it's further. There's like we'll learn more about blockchain technology and the different applications. I think we can see that how DeFi is playing the role here, and it is fascinating. It's really fascinating to see that.
No, it's great. It's a good time to be a good time to be alive, and I love I'm glad we've known each other for so long now, and to be I'm still true to my original goal and how all of these digital tools are going to make life better for all of us, and just like financial transactions are one piece, or access to banking and things like that, access to legal is just as critical. It's just as big a human right as everything. And so I think it's a great time to be working on these problems and finding ways to really improve life, because I think you said it would make things easier.
It is. And thanks again for introducing that great application of how customers and custodianship could actually be used through your platform and app. Perhaps we can actually send more information to the listeners and subscribers about what the One Law app is. And thanks again for joining us.
Hey, thanks, Azam. Good to meet you, Anton. Great conversation.
Thank you, Jason. It's really cool what you're doing.